You just have to see how good this lasagna is. It could be the ultimate lasagna recipe for homemade bolognese, pasta, bechamel, and marinara. Let's go over how to make a perfect restaurant-style lasagna at home. Now first we start off with the bolognese. It's gonna be bacon, pork shoulder, and then beef chuck brisket. Now typically I would say use pancetta, but bacon is what I had, so that's what I'm gonna be using today. Now why do I grind my own meats? I prefer to grind my own meats because I can control the cuts, the fat content, and the texture of the final product. That's the whole reason for doing this. We want more control. I keep my grinder in the freezer so I get better keef. Just kidding. No, I keep it in the freezer because it maintains a cold grinding temperature and helps me get a clean grind when preparing my meat. And now a good tip is to grind all of your mirepoix, your carrots, your celery, your onion, your garlic. All of that can go into the grinder as well, and you get it extra fine so it melts into that sauce, into that bolognese. It's gonna have a much nicer texture. If you wanna get it this fine and you don't have a grinder, you could put it into the food processor and get basically the same result. This is something we did in the restaurant all the time. It was a very awesome tip. It worked fine when we're going through so many meats and mirepoix. I give it a pass through, and then once it passes through once, I put that ground meat mixture through again, and that's gonna get it into an extra fine grind. As you could see, compared to the once pass through, it's a little more fine than the one on the right. This is gonna make our sauce that much better. It's gonna basically make that fat melt into the sauce. Now to cook off all my mirepoix, I'm gonna be starting with duck fat because I have it, so why not? Then first things first, I'm gonna cook off all that mirepoix until translucent in a high heat pan. At that point, I can add in my ground meat mixture. I haven't seasoned it yet. I wanna brown it off first. The reason for not seasoning it yet and seasoning it after it browns is because it pulls out all that moisture and all that liquid. We don't want that. We wanna get a good sear first. Once we get a good sear and we season it with salt and pepper, we add in our tomato paste. Cook that off a little bit. Then we'll add in a bay leaf and our aromatics. Deglaze the pan with your wine of choice. I went ahead and did white wine. Gave it a little sippy sip, and then we went to reduce this au sec, which just basically means till nothing. Reduce it to nothing, and then we can add in our stock. I added in chicken stock. You can use beef stock if you'd like, and then the cream because this is a white bolognese. Then we just want to cook this down low and slow, reducing until thick. Now on to the bechamel. I'm gonna start off by making a roux. Roux is equal parts by weight, fat plus flour. So I'm doing butter and flour and cooking this off for a few minutes. Now the reason for cooking it off for a few minutes is to get rid of that raw flour flavor. Beyond that, how you cook the roux depends on what you're gonna be using it for. For this bechamel, I'm gonna be cooking it off just for a few minutes because I want it to be a white roux. White sauce, white roux. I then add in my whole milk while stirring vigorously. Once it is fully incorporated, I immediately add in my freshly ground Parmesan cheese. You can whisk this or use a hand blender until fully incorporated and silky smooth. Season it with salt to taste, and there you have a beautiful bechamel. This is going to be the glue for the lasagna. Now on to making our own pasta. This is the exact dough that we would use at the Italian restaurant. I got this from Pasta Stan, and I still trust it till this day. Now for this dough, we're going to be separating whole eggs and egg yolks. The reason for doing this is it gives us a more silky smooth texture and a more vibrant color to our pasta. Also, quick side note, don't throw away those egg whites. Toss them in a container and put them in the freezer. Utilize them for something else later on. And then you want to beat the hell out of it in your stand mixer for about 10 minutes. Then we set that aside, portion it out, and let it rest for about 10 more minutes. At this point, we roll out our portions with a rolling pin before putting it into our pasta sheeter. We're going to be working our way up the numbers until number 7. Now, please don't judge me. I am not a pasta person. I don't make pasta that much anymore, so excuse my imperfect looking sheets. Once I have all my sheets, I cut them all to the proper shape for my vessel. And now for those scraps, don't throw them away. You can cut them up just like this right here and make a maltagliati. Maltagliati means poorly cut, and this is a great way to utilize your scraps. Cook it off with butter and it's delicious. Now we salt our water like the ocean, and we want to cook them off until al dente, pulling them out and setting them on to a kitchen towel just to pat them dry, and then transferring them to parchment paper. We stack it with parchment paper and we keep layering it, repeating the process until all of our pasta is fully cooked off. Now the way you could tell the pasta is ready is when you take a bite, it feels tender with some resistance. Now we're ready for the assembly of this lasagna. Now assembling this is very simple. Choose your vessel and you start off with one layer of pasta. We add in the bechamel, which is going to be the glue to this lasagna. It's going to hold it together with a creamy texture. Then a layer of bolo, and then finish it off with a layer of Parmesan cheese. We repeat this process until we reach the top of our vessel. Then once you reach the top of your vessel, the very top layer just gets some bechamel and a generous amount of Parmesan cheese, and we toss that covered with parchment paper and foil in the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. We cook this for about 30 minutes. And this might surprise you, but I'm gonna pull this out and then I'm gonna toss this into the fridge, and then we'll come back to it the next day. Now, of course, for lasagna, we have to have marinara to finish this off. I'm going to mince a yellow onion, and then I'm going to take some garlic and I'm going to paste it. Think of Goodfellas. We want to cut this garlic small enough so it melts into the sauce. Now, a good way to paste it is once you mince your garlic, add a little bit of kosher salt and then scrape it down with the back end of your knife. In your saucepan, a generous amount of olive oil. Toss in our onion and garlic and cook it off until nice, soft, and translucent. We add in the tomato paste. We're gonna cook that off with our Mediterranean oregano. By the way, you wanna use this instead of Mexican oregano. The difference is Mexican oregano is a little more woody and chunkier. You could tell the difference. Mediterranean oregano is softer, more floral. You'll definitely notice the difference. Then toss in your chili flake to taste. Then add the red wine vinegar. Toss in the San Marzano whole peeled tomatoes. Give them a little blitzy blitz, or you can squeeze them with your hands if you like it nice and chunky, and we're gonna cook this off until fully thickened. Season to taste with salt and pepper. Now, many will agree that lasagna tastes much better the next day. That's because it's had time for the sauce to firm up, and the lasagna just holds together better. It's not a sloppy mess. Now we can cut it into perfect sized cubes or rectangles, whatever you'd like, and have a much nicer presentation. And of course, snack on those cold scraps while you're cutting it. You deserve it. It's freaking delicious. We take a rack in a container, add a little bit of water. We're gonna steam this out for about 30 minutes at 365 degrees Fahrenheit. Then for our garnish, we're just gonna do some good old parsley and then our marinara sauce. We pull them out after 30 minutes. Make sure to use a cake tester just to make sure that it's fully cooked. Then just serve up. Marinara, Parmigiano Reggiano, some Italian curly parsley, and enjoy. I freaking love lasagna, and I hope you do too. Thanks for watching, and if you subscribe, I just might make you some lasagna.